The internet is all abuzz right now about Elon Musk buying Twitter. It has been for a while, but we're hearing that the deal could be announced today. Maybe by the time you've watched this video, it's a done deal, and Elon Musk will be the official owner of Twitter, or maybe it will have been a total clown show and he's not. I have no idea. That's not really my purpose here. I'm going to talk about the media because I got to tell you, this reminds me a lot of what I heard when I sat in an editorial board meeting the morning after Trump was elected in 2016. When I saw this tweet from Michael Tracy, I had to laugh because he wrote, "Dark days ahead. There's only one man who should be celebrating Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter, Vladimir Putin, my latest in the New York Times." And a lot of people did not get the sarcasm, but my favorite response to it is this person. "My 3-year-old came to me crying this morning saying, 'Dad, I'm scared. Elon, Twitter.' All I could do was hug my child as I tried not to break down." I'm not kidding you, folks. In my meeting the morning after Trump was elected, I was listening to pitches about kids crying at school, and that being a news story that we should cover about how kids are freaking out. And we're talking like kindergartners, first graders. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a direct reflection of the fact their parents are hysterical, and maybe 5 or 6 year old really has no idea what president of the United States even is, much less who Trump is and the fact that he's president, what that's going to mean for the country. But there were journalists who were very serious about covering this devastating moment for young children in elementary school. And so here we are again. I got to tell you, there are a lot of similarities. But one of the stories I want to show you, I think, is probably my favorite. And it's from NPR and it's audio only. So you'll just have to stare at me and the screen, but listen to it. Sorry about that. It just is so reflective of the same sort of drumbeat that I see when I watch these legacy news organizations talk about the issue of speech on the internet, especially when it's moving in the opposite direction of censorship. And there's this public safety concern about what would happen if just anybody could say basically anything, like all these negative things that could happen. And yet the legacy press rarely, if ever, includes themselves as misinformation agents. So that's always the funny thing to me. It's not that it's untrue that there would be more misinformation. Yeah, of course there would be. Okay. And those of us who support speech and more speech versus less speech are not pro misinformation. It's not like we just love misinformation. It's that we look at the people who are allowed to talk right now and see the fact that they spread misinformation too. And so really when you start censoring people, it's not really about protecting the truth. It's about protecting certain voices that also get it wrong, right? And these agencies, as you're going to hear in this NPR piece, they just never seem to include themselves as agents of misinformation and deserving of censorship if we were to follow the rules that they themselves push for. All right, so let's listen to it. It's a couple minutes long. I'll pop in every once in a while and give you some commentary.
A takeover attempt by Elon Musk, the richest person in the world. Elon Musk loves to tweet, and he says he has a lot of ideas that might unlock the platform's potential, but the changes he's calling for at Twitter might not be popular with some users and advertisers. NPR's tech correspondent Shannon Bond joins us. Shannon, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
So how is Twitter trying to prevent the richest man in the world from buying what is, after all, a public company?
Well, the company is preparing to fight back. On Friday, the day after Musk announced this $43 billion takeover offer, Twitter's board introduced what's known as a poison pill to fend off Musk. Basically, this would let current investors buy more shares at a discount if Musk or anyone else tries to increase their stake in Twitter to 15% or more. And so that would make it more expensive for Musk to buy the company. So, the board is not rolling over here. This sets up a real fight over the future of the company. Now, Musk already owns 9% of Twitter, but he says he wants to buy the rest and take it private to, as he puts it, unlock its potential.
Okay. Before we go any further, did you hear in the intro where it's like, but this could be really bad for advertisers, or this isn't good news necessarily for advertisers or these other groups? I already sort of teased it up for like, these are all the people that don't want this to happen. And I will say, like, often, if ever, they do not discuss who might really support this, and like and previous instances of how censorship has led us down a dark path, and who really likes this, and how once again the tie with the mainstream legacy news also being unpopular with advertisers and other people. Okay, so anyway, let's keep listening. All right, here we go. It's like I said, it's gonna get good.
You know what he'd like to do with it?
Well, Twitter, of course, has its problems, right? It's lost money in the last few years. It's not growing as quickly as investors would like. But unlike your typical corporate raider, Musk has been very upfront that this is not about making money. At a conference on Thursday, he said what he cares about is free speech.
Twitter has become kind of the de facto town square. So it's just really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they're able to speak freely within the bounds of the law.
And so that's what Musk means when he talks about potential. He thinks Twitter is overly restrictive about what people are allowed to say, and he wants to change that.
And how would he change it if he succeeds in a takeover?
Here we go. How is he going to change it for free speech?
Well, Musk says he thinks Twitter should basically allow all legal speech. And, in the US, that's just about anything. So, if Twitter were to do this, it would mean allowing disinformation, hate speech, harassment, spam. These are all things that Twitter and other internet platforms have been cracking down on.
Okay, yeah. So this is where I start to go. All right, here we go. Yeah, I mean, it could mean disinformation. Which, if I understand correctly, disinformation and misinformation are different only in that disinformation is intentional propaganda meant to mislead the public, basically, which the government does all the time. And who does the government love to use to spread disinformation? NPR, CNN, whoever is in power at the time, and whatever their best mouthpiece organization is. So this is the thing. It's like that could mean disinformation is on the internet. I'm sorry, disinformation is already on the internet. It's just a matter of who gets to spread it and who it benefits. It's already there. That's why this setup of this black and white, like, oh, it could just mean more disinformation. Well, yeah, I mean, actually, it could mean more disinformation, but it would mean other people have a chance to spread it too, NPR, not just you guys. Before we get to the end of this, though, which is frankly the best part of it, and you're thinking, I cannot believe my eyes when it comes to the headlines around this story, you should definitely go to betterspectacles.com/Allison and get yourself a pair of glasses that work. I use their blue light blocking technology, but my husband is a progressive lens wearer, and if you wear progressive lenses, this is the company for you. My husband has traumatic brain injury, and he gets migraines a lot. The glasses have really helped him. They specialize in difficult prescriptions, and you can schedule an appointment with an optician right now and get 61% off of these progressive lenses. So go to betterspectacles.com. If you're also sitting there either celebrating or you're totally depressed about Elon Musk buying Twitter, then I also have something for you, no matter who you are. Go to AllisonWinePromo.com. That's Allison with 1L winepromo.com, and get yourself some amazing wine. You get 50% off the wine itself and 50% off shipping. One of these bottles comes from the oldest vineyard in Argentina. One comes from almost 9,000 feet. Actually, two from almost 9,000 feet. Another one uses natural fermentation. These are wines you cannot get from the grocery store. And frankly, I'm going to start calling them the free speech platform of alcohol, okay? Because no matter whether, like I said, you're totally depressed and you're drinking away your sorrows, or you're celebrating that Elon Musk is going to buy Twitter, or you're just bored because you don't care, this is the opportunity for you to support my work and have a great glass of wine while we're at it. So let's get back to the rest of this video. Let's keep listening.
Down on. And, we know these platforms already have a lot of problems with toxic content anyway. Karen Kornblue studies online disinformation at the German Marshall Fund, and she says there's a reason major platforms have these rules, especially Twitter, given who uses it most.
Okay.
Their assets.
This is where it's going to start getting interesting with, of course, because now you bring in the professor or the think tank lady. That's how it works, right? And they're going to tell you that this is a bad thing for this reason. And have you heard any positives yet about it? Maybe I missed it, but have you heard any positives? I haven't. I have heard no positives cited in this yet for who might support Elon's purchase of Twitter.
Asset is all the journalists and opinion makers who come there. And if they kill that asset by making it completely inhospitable, and a cesspool, I think they're going to go in the wrong direction.
And of course, Scott,
Who come there, and if they kill that,
Hang
asset
on,
by
did you
making
hear
it
that? Let me
completely
pull it
Council
back.
Fund, and she says there's a reason major platforms have these rules, especially Twitter, given who uses it most.
Their asset is all the journalists and opinion makers who come there. And if they kill that asset by making it completely inhospitable and a cesspool, I think they're going to go in the wrong direction.
Okay.
And of course, Scott,
So their asset is journalists and opinion makers. I don't even know what that means and why more opinion makers or the opinion makers right now that are out there are better off. I don't know. But that's the thing. They're the asset. And then opening up to more speech would make it inhospitable to the journalists. How? Can somebody please tell me how it makes it inhospitable to the journalists? For me, as a former journalist in corporate news, I would have loved to have seen more opinions because that would have helped me do a better job. If it was easier to access more opinions about what was going on, it would be easier for me to do my job.
And of course, Scott, Twitter makes its money from ads, and advertisers also don't want to be around this kind of content.
What
Okay.
other ideas, Caffrey?
I just told you my two sponsors for this video, wine and glasses, and they're saying advertisers do not want to be around this kind of content. I'm sorry. Yes, they do. There are a lot of advertisers that like to be around free speech. That's just not true. So once again, setting it up as if all this, none of this, let's continue.
Caff for Twitter.
He knows the platform really well, right? He loves to tweet. He really gets how Twitter works. And so he's talked about banning bot accounts that tweet automatically, right? These have caused lots of headaches for Twitter over the years. Russian trolls use them to spread disinformation. There are also networks of bots that constantly tweet about cryptocurrency to try to hype up prices. Musk also says he wants to make Twitter's algorithm public so users could better understand why they're being shown particular tweets. That's something actually former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has also advocated for. And maybe the most popular idea Musk has endorsed is giving people the ability to edit their tweets after they're posted. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but it's something a lot of Twitter users have wanted for years. And Twitter says it's actually been working on an edit button since well before Musk started buying shares in the company. And it says it's going to start testing that out soon.
So again, this is the main point, I think, that a lot of people in corporate news or legacy press, whatever you want to call it, just it's like they consider themselves when they're thinking about opening these platforms up to more users who say crazy things. Okay, let's just assume you're gonna let the craziest person say the craziest things. Okay, let's just say that's what this is all about. They don't seem to consider themselves as organization with a considerable power on these platforms who say crazy things sometimes. Okay, who get things wrong. And so they just don't consider themselves in the group of people that that would be allowed if we were to sort of open it up and then create all these dangers. They consider themselves as this safe class, this safe class of information disseminators. And once again, I think often assume that people like me are just like, we just love misinformation and we just want more of it. We just can't get enough. and actually, if you think about it, it's kind of the opposite. It's that because we want the truth, we want more information. We don't just want this protected class of people or organizations to be the only ones who get to spread misinformation, right? We want everybody to be able to spread misinformation, honestly, because we don't just want to be left with your lies. And they're part of it, they're part of it. And hopefully within allowing, yes, the possibility and reality, not just possibility, but the reality that there will be more bad information on the internet. You'll also get more good information. COVID was a great example of this. How many scientists and doctors who would have added very important nuance to the conversation around COVID that I believe would have left at least the public in the United States of America far less divided over this topic, far less divided, less hatred towards each other for their private medical decisions. And you know, what's interesting, I was reading this New York Times article about Elon Musk buying Twitter, and one of the first things he said about him was he's been a hard person to pin down politically, so it's not really, you know, it's not really clear exactly like what's going to happen. And then the next thing about what could happen is that Trump could end up back on Twitter, which I think a lot of this is probably about. But that's the other thing with corporate news too. They tend to focus so much on this sort of right-wing extremism or domestic terrorism, or like who you are politically, and trying to figure you out and categorize you. And what do they do with Elon Musk? They're having a really hard time with that. And also it's like, oh, all these people in these categories that we've been trying so hard to get off the internet are going to come back on. You know, what's going to happen? You know, we're going to be like, battling all their misinformation forever. Big picture here, guys, is that I hate to say it, but corporate news, legacy press, mainstream media is one of the major agents of misinformation and disinformation, especially when you consider the definition, again, like I've said, of disinformation being government, at least partly government, but like intentional propaganda to mislead people. That I'm sorry, but the press, the big voices in the press are some of the main voices that are used. When I was a reporter, I've talked many times about stories where the government and other special interests were vying constantly for us to just repeat their press releases. So okay, we rise and fall together. If everybody who spreads misinformation, especially those who can spread misinformation with serious, grave consequences, are going to be removed from the internet, then that's got to start at the top. Okay, all the corporate press, all these journalists with huge followings that say things that are wrong and are used by the special interests to push disinformation, they've all got to go. We rise and fall together with the tide, and it's time to start just admitting that you're part of it. Okay, we were part of it. I was part of it. It's not about the fact that like you have the ethics and nobody else does. I'm sorry. That's just to me, that's bad journalism. That's just bad journalism if you can't see that about how the press is used. So thank you for watching this video. Leave me a comment in the comment sections. Don't forget to support my sponsors, and I will see you next time.